If we got back to constitutional principles, well, it would, first of all, it would have to come from the people. There are some in Congress who do have principles, and they abide by them, not as many as are needed. And so we'd have to come back to principles. And what are the principles? Well, get back to the founding of our country again. Men are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. And to secure these rights, governments are instituted. The purpose of government is to safeguard the rights of the people. Freedom of speech, assembly, press, the right to keep and bear arms, which we haven't even mentioned, but certainly should be there. The right to be free from search and seizure without warrant and due process. Try and say that when you go through an airport screener, right? Impossible, but anyhow. So principles, yeah. The principles of America are very simple. Limit the power of government and leave the people alone. That's generally what they are. What about people who become in need? Well, the American system of charity is second to none in the history of mankind. And even with all the taxation and regulation and controls we have, it's still the best. The American people are a very generous people, and that would continue. So we get back to principles. Now, if we got back to principles, you would have principled people running as Republicans, principled people running as Democrats, principled people running as whatever, and it wouldn't matter, all right? And what you would see is you would see the voters seeking out people who have principles, not seeking out people who want a job, not seeking about people who want power, not seeking out people who want to manage your life and take care of you and be benevolent and give you entitlements and benefits and so forth. No, principles. So you have to define the principles, and I guess you can't do a better job of defining the principles anywhere except go to the Ten Commandments. Thou shalt not steal. It's still there. Right? Thou shalt not covet. Right? It's still there. Right? Thou shalt not kill, which really is thou shalt not murder. We believe in capital punishment, by the way. The intent of the wording of the Ten Commandments is thou shalt not murder, thou shalt not take innocent life. Look at all the innocent life that's being taken in the womb today. There's this terrible blot on our country. It's got to stop. So get back to principles, yeah. And what would happen if we got back to principles? Our country would start back up the climb instead of going down.
But to get back to my question, the pragmatic versus idealistic,
Yeah.
where do you stand on that? Because that's really what his documentary is about. Well, I mean, I'm sure it's all about all this other stuff, but where do you stand on that pragmatic versus idealistic running candidates?
If you start talking about getting back to principles, you get into the business of pragmatism or idealism, and there's a problem there, too. There are people in our country today who won't vote for somebody who is too idealistic. You say, well, he can't win. It's as if your vote is wasted if you vote for somebody who doesn't win. No, it's not wasted. It's a protest, right? And it should be looked upon that way. Idealism has pretty much gone out of fancy in our country. We live in a very pragmatic type of a world. What's in it for me? How can I best fill my own wallet and gain more power and gain more influence and get good treatment by the press? That's the pragmatic way of looking at things. There are some people who believe in principles. They have ideals. They're idealistic. And it's something that we need. We need more people who do that. Some people would have ideals that I think are probably wrong, but I'd be more interested in somebody that takes a stand. I've made it a practice in my years in the John Birch Society to tell our members something that I do myself. I say, your best prospect for membership in the Birch Society is somebody who stands up and says something. And it doesn't matter what he says. If he has that oomph and that determination and that idealism, he may be totally wrong, right? I can remember some people back in the Vietnam days protesting against the war in Vietnam, smoking pot and saying free drugs, free sex, and so forth. We reached those people. Hey, wait a minute, just stop and think about this. What about this and this and this? And some of those people became very good members of the John Birch Society. So I like to see spunk in people. I don't want to see people being doormats. Right? There's an awful lot of doormats, right? And they want to make a doormat out of me. I'm going to protest. But idealism versus pragmatism, we got to have more idealism and less pragmatism. There's no doubt about that. Does that help you?
That's nice. Yeah. Spot on.
That is very nice. All right. What looks to be our last question.
My goodness.
30H.
The sun,